Family, so I wanted to share an idea with you. Well, some ideas that I have and some thoughts, basically. So on campus, you might have a lot of different clubs, different, Model UN, eco-friendly clubs, tech clubs, you name it. There's a lot. And I've been noticing some trends amongst my friends, and it made me kind of want to make this video, and I want to share some of my own personal experience with clubs. Now, remember, if you are a student and you're already struggling in your life, do not put the club above your studies. Okay? Your studies come first. If you get distracted by the social political games that go on in clubs, you will be led astray. You will suffer. Okay? I'll give a little example. So, in one club that I was in, there was a hierarchy of the poorer students and the more rich students. And the richer students wanted to go out to eat all the time after club meetings. They wanted to go out and do activities together. And the poorer students would say, like, well, we can't really do that. I gotta go to work. I gotta, go home. I got a long commute. And then the rich kids who live with their parents and their parents pay for their school didn't really get that, and then they would kind of shun the poorer students. Now, this wasn't always the case, okay? But there developed a pattern of cliques within the club, okay? And the richer kids had a problem of empathizing with the poorer students. And sometimes the poorer students would say, okay, we'll just go out. And then the rich kids would be like, oh, I got it this time, I got it. But then once that poor kid would leave, I'd hear those richer kids being like, can you believe that, man? Oh, man, I'm not going to reveal everything they say, but they do talk smack, right? I don't need to say all the rude things they say in order for you to get the point. So realize that those clubs, they are temporary, okay? Do not overly break your back for the club or get too enthusiastic. You should care because you joined, but if you start caring more than others and you actually start taking it too serious, sometimes that might work and sometimes it might not. So you need to look at the club that you're in and say, how serious is this club? Are we all on the same page? Who's slacking and who's pushing? Because I remember seeing some students, they were the richer kids, and they got the highest position in the club. But I would notice how they would defer some of the actions to lesser members in the club, and they would sort of let the lesser, poorer students do all the work while they didn't do anything, okay? And then the richer, more privileged students in the higher positions would get all the credit when the award seasons came around. And then the poorer students weren't as recognized as much because they didn't have they were not in the club, the inner club of the club. Because bonding activities happen when those rich kids hang out together. When they go to somewhere to eat together and they're talking, they create a bond. And then you show up, you're struggling, you're trying to do what you can, and you show up to the meetings, you might not be informed, they don't really inform you, you don't fill in the loop, and you start feeling sad, and then you think, oh, I guess I'll go out. I'll put on a credit card and I'll go out with them, and then maybe they'll like me. I would highly encourage you not to be in those kind of clubs. And before you accept a position in the club, beyond just a member, really consider your mental health. Consider your mental health because there's going to be, when you accept a higher position, you're going to be battling people's egos. And when you battle people's egos, it can get hard and you don't want to give up because you're already invested. So before you accept the position or you run as a candidate in that club, because some clubs you have to run for it and you have to get elected, and if you want to run for the election and you win the election, just really know what you're getting into, okay? Because if you get into it and then you realize the amount of work and how unhappy you are and how you don't have any friends really in that club and it's all superficial And the rich privileged kids, they're kind of all clicking together and sitting together, and you're kind of all there doing all the work, and you don't feel like you fit in. You're hurting yourself. Okay? Do not let the more privileged students push you into neglecting your studies, okay? Or pushing you into spending money you don't have and to wasting time you don't have, okay? Remember, there's a lot of promises that these clubs make, okay? And some of them, they have great speeches about what their mission is, what they want to do. But in reality, they have to say that, and the advisors to the club will make them say it. So it could be all smoke and mirrors. And then when you get in there, but you've already accepted the position and you don't want to dishonor yourself, you go ahead and get through with it. And it can be a mess. Okay? And remember, there's different fluctuations within the semester. So in the beginning of the semester, when you first start, you might feel like, I got this. But remember, right as midterms come up, that's a pressure right there. It's time to go in. You got to study. Now, if you got to work too, if you're not one of the privileged students, right, who always knows they have food on the table, their parents will pay for everything, their gas, their parking, they don't really struggle like you. You need to understand that the pressure is going to harden on you worse than it is them. Yeah, they're stressing out. They got their Starbucks. They got their yerba mate. They're on their Mac like, and they're doing fine. Yeah, they're stressed, but they're not as stressed as you because you have economic stresses on top of study stresses. And I've seen people neglect their bodies. I've seen people kind of start getting really bad anxiety or thinking they need to take Adderall to take pills in order to study. It's a hard spiral down. You worked hard, you want to have the prestigious position, but you need to realize that not every club is what they are what they say they are, okay? And remember that the high school drama is going to be in the clubs too. And you have to ask yourself, do you want to invite that drama into your life? Do you want it? Do you really need it? Okay? So think about that. Because I've seen people start on a road and then they realize how much pressure it is and how much people dump on them to do while they go off and do nothing. So, or at least don't do that much. So please consider that. And to continue about the semester, right? So after midterms, things slow down for a little while, right? You still got your homework, you still got your studies. But then when finals come around, right? That is a funneling of energy that is compressed upon you to sharpen you. It's for your own benefit, right? It's to push you, like to test your mind to see if you've been paying attention the whole semester. And if you've only been socializing in the clubs, if you've only been going out with them or going bowling or stupid activities that some of them do together, you need to understand that time you spent with them, those hours you wasted, could have really helped you preparing for your final. And then if you neglect all the studies and you try to cram it in at the end of the semester, it's not going to work. You can think it'll work, but it won't. You will forget. Your brain is not designed that way. Crash coursing stuff won't help you. If you memorize 2 sentences or a summary of, like, let's say the Revolutionary War, on your final, if your professor has what they call a green book or a blue book, and you gotta write, a 6-paragraph essay, and all you can remember from the video on YouTube is 2-sentence summary, that's not gonna help you. Okay? College from our media in America has been turned into a frat place where you have a lot of sex and use a lot of drugs and shove things in the butt of your frat boys. There's been a lot of deaths recently because of their hazing rituals, right? So you need to realize it's not always these healthy environments in college, and you got to keep your sanity going. You're there to study, okay? There's the networking side, but you're there to study. You're there to upgrade, to level up your consciousness. You're paying You're going to class, you're doing the work. Yeah, you can feel lonely, right? You can feel lonely, but try to diversify the way you study. But don't think that, okay, I'm lonely, I'm doing good in my classes, so let me join a bunch of clubs and take on a bunch of obligations, right? That sound easy, but then over the long term can have major complications. And when you accept a position in a club, remember, you don't know what illnesses are going to come your way, right? You don't know if you're going to get the flu or a savage strain of the flu. I remember I once had a strain of the flu that lasted 3 weeks, the symptoms. It took 3 weeks, okay? On top of you having to go, on top of, imagine you having to go to work and study and do all your other duties, your house cleaning, whatever it is you got to do. So before you try to go into a club on campus, consider how much time you actually have for it and really pay attention to the forms you fill out. Okay? You don't want to cut corners and say like, oh, well, the requirements they have, okay, I gotta go to X amount of this or X amount of that. I can do that. Sounds easy enough. Really consider it. Okay? And if you do take on a club, one way to keep track of all your duties is to use like a little planner, write down all the agenda, and get a regular calendar that you can put on your wall to really know when things are due, to not feel overwhelmed. Because if you're not writing all your duties down and your teacher's like, here's a handout, you go to next class, here's a handout, it's due on this day, due on that day, go online, submit this, do that, I need 5 sources for this research paper. Your brain is going to be all spattled, and then you go to the club meeting and they're like, okay, so who's doing the event on Friday and who can go? And then if you're just like, I'll do it, because you feel this social pressure to fit in and, to do all these activities that you really don't have time to do, and you're not being honest with it, it can cause problems. And it's worse when you say to your higher up, you know what, I don't think this club is for me, it's not really working out. And then those people are going to look at you different on campus. They say they won't, but they will. And then you're going to feel uncomfortable, right? You're like, man, they don't understand my struggle. I had dropped the club, and now I feel like weird and insecure. And so what I'm saying, family, is before you join a club, understand that you need to think of your studies first. Don't flunk a class because you'll have to repeat it, okay? You need to focus on your studies. Don't waste your money and your time. Time is valuable. You can't get it back. These people will move on to different things and they will forget about you, and they're your friend for the semester, but they will transfer somewhere else. They most likely will add you on social media, but they won't reach out to you. You'll probably never see them again. So don't ruin your studies or get a C in your class because you spend too much time hanging out with them. Okay? You don't need to impress the rich kids. You don't need to. You don't need to spend the money and the time to go hang out with them, to flatter them, and to have them pretend that they like you. Some people don't care about economic status, but some say they don't and they do, and that's what I'm trying to defend you against. Because you don't want to hurt yourself and mess up your already stressed mental health with the anxiety of the popularity contest within the club. Okay? And remember, just because you can fit it into your schedule doesn't mean you should. You need time to unwind, okay? You're going to get too tied up. You're going to get too tight, if you're not going to the gym, if you're not eating healthy, if you're not going outside in the natural air, okay? And you're only studying and hanging out on campus with these people, and then you're going to work, and then you're not really tracking your emotions, you can crash and burn. And then what happens? You take it on 6 classes, you mentally crash, you flunk those classes, you get a W, you withdraw, it's on your transcript. Okay? You can sign a petition to get certain grades removed from your transcript, but sometimes you don't always get it depending on the dean. So think about your future. Okay, don't sacrifice your future, your glory, your honor to puff up the ego of the rich kids. It's okay to be poor. It's okay to be broke. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, you know what, thank you for the offer, but I just really can't accept it right now. Okay? And understand, you can find social interactions in different ways, but learn how to be alone. You really have to learn that if you want to succeed in college. Not to where you're some weirdo obsessing being alone, but understand that being alone and studying in the library or in the park or at a cafe, it can be all right. You can do it. Okay? Understand this. And if you're a student with ADHD like me, you have to work even harder. Because how our brains operate, I don't know if this is true with everyone with ADHD, ADD, right? Attention deficit disorder, and then your brain can focus on something for 5 seconds and then 10 seconds and then 5 minutes and then 20 minutes, and your brain is like it wants to go on these different things, and it can have a hard time just like focusing. So, if you're already struggling with a unique brain, hanging out with the preppies, hanging out with the pampered can lose you. And then if there's always the jocks on campus and the toughies, right? They want to kind of show off and intimidate people, and they pressure you because they're taller than you or fatter than you, and they're like, "Hey, come and hang out," and you're just like, I don't want to be a pussy, but I don't want them to think I'm an asshole for saying no. No, you have to be firm and polite. Be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't. Thank you. I wish I could, but I can't. Thanks for the offer. You have to think about ways to say no. And a lot of people have social anxiety to where they don't know how to say no enough. But understand that your studies are the most important thing that are going to save you from poverty. Okay? Now, this is not to talk about entrepreneurs going the free route and starting a food truck or their own business. Or they're just taking one typing class to kind of, or they're taking an Excel class to learn something. No. I'm talking about people who have they want a degree, right? Remember, there's going to be so many struggles thrown at you as a student. Don't put more rocks in your backpack by joining clubs that are not really going to help you, right? I wish somebody would have told me this a long time ago, because I would have not joined many clubs, because I consider it now a waste of time. I won't tell those people that, right? They'll always say, like a professor will say, oh, will you speak about the club, its benefits? And I'll be like, I'm pressured to be like, oh yeah, I was, we went here, we went there, and I'll try to cut it short so that I don't lie, but so that I don't trick other people into joining things that maybe they should think twice about. So, if you notice yourself feeling so overwhelmed and scattered, you need to bring it in, write it down what you have to do, have an agenda, okay? Put out times. You can take breaks. If you have ADHD, you can study for 20 minutes, take a break, look at a funny video, or you can eat a piece of cake. You can give your brain some treats and then be like, we gotta go back. Boom, let's go back, right? And remember, a lot of people when they're stressed, they eat a lot of junk food, okay? Try to consider this. I'm not your dietitian. I'm not your doctor. It's okay to have a treat once in a while. But remember, there's a lot of germs on campus. A lot of people are sick. You will get the flu easier and faster when your body's not eating enough vitamins and minerals. Your immune system is lower and you're going to struggle, right? So think about healthy snacks like trail mix, grapes, brie cheese with crackers. You can think about better alternatives to satisfy that munch, because when you get anxious, you're like, oh, there's math. Oh, what was the formula? What was the formula? And you want to eat something, and people will go to Chips Ahoy, they'll go to Doritos, they'll go to Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Love those chips. But they'll overeat, and then when they flooded their body with sugar, they crash and they just don't feel good, and they gotta go get a Rockstar, or they gotta go get a Monster energy drink, and now they're all like, they're all high on this energy drink, and then they're trying to focus on some boring text. It's a mess. So consider how you go to sleep. Don't, how would I put it? You don't think that you're going to learn more by studying till 2 in the morning. Your brain has to heal and recuperate. You should go to bed by 10, definitely by 11 if you're waking up at 7 in the morning, okay? Or 6:30, because you need to watch. Your body has to heal. You sleep better, you study better, you'll remember more, okay? And if you have ADHD, you have to work 10 times harder than the normal student. I don't know how it is for people with autism. Usually people with autism can go to the Student Services Center and they can get special testing and they can get a companion that will sit with them in class. So they have a different program, and there's other mental uniquenesses in the world that I'm not versed on, like Asperger's and stuff like that. But the ADHD and ADD, I am very familiar with. And if I can do it, I can outcompete with these normal brains while they're privileged and rich, and I'm just a normal person. You can do it too. But my whole point is that before you join a club, really consider what it's asking you. Okay, and some clubs are they're like very loose. If you're just gonna be a member and you can show up, right? Like if you're in a coding club, right? I've seen coding clubs, and if you want to join the coding club and they're like, yeah, we just hang out in the computer lab or whatever, we're doing this, and everyone can pop in and out, that's different. But even with those clubs that you have freedom, regulate your time. Regulate your time wasting, okay? Don't just be satisfied with a C or a B. You should be trying to push harder, okay? Especially in a world of competition. That doesn't mean that everyone who gets A's understand what they studied, and that doesn't mean that everyone who got a B didn't understand either. Because some professors have very tricky tests, and some people know how to cheat. So there's that. But remember, your mental health is important, and college is not just the social aspect. Okay? They make your college give you skills. You won't be gaining skills and gaining information if you allow yourself to be distracted every 20 seconds or to be the social butterfly. This doesn't mean you be the loner. You don't want to be overly isolated. But it means you understand your boundaries and you understand your goal. And you should write down your goal and you should write things down that you want to work on. So, yeah. I hope that helped you. I'm just freeballing what I can remember. But I have seen a lot of people on the brink of snapping. I've seen a lot of people crying at their laptops. And some of them I've comforted, and some of them I just was like, I'm not that good of a friend with them. I need to some people don't want you to touch them. Some people don't want you to come near them. So you don't know. But it's like, dang, I know how much pressure that person has. And they took on too many responsibilities. Okay? And remember, if you're going to be in a club on campus and you're going to have like a field trip or you're going to organize something, you got to go around the bureaucracy of the administration within the college. That takes time as well. Really, you know how you watch your budget? Watch your time and make every hour count, right? And give yourself breaks that truly refresh your eyes. Okay, like if I've been working on an essay for 3 hours, you close the computer, put it down, go play some video games, I go run up a hill, I bake some cookies. I know that sounds weird, but I'll bake something, I'll cook something, I'll whittle to give my brain to switch my focus, okay? And then to calm down and then go back again to the essay later with fresh eyes. Or I read a pleasure book, as in a book that's like fantasy or robots or whatever book that's not part of my class curriculum, that's just for me to read and entertain myself. And then calm down, read that, and then my body will be like, and then boom, jump back into it. Okay? Think about that. And think about flashcards, right? You gotta look at it. All right, I have a chalkboard, and I used to have a whiteboard. I need to get another one, but I need to get a standing whiteboard that you can work on. Okay? The tools that are in the library, you can also use at home. And the library is a fun place, but don't get overly distracted. Okay? I'll tell you more stories in the future of how I've learned all these different methods, but it's really important to know, family. So, yeah, and if you have any study tactics that you like to share, let me know, because we all can learn from each other. But those are my 2 cents about clubs on campus. So, have a great day, family. Have fun studying. Level up.